So shall I pull up my Luther doc, or do you have
I've got it up if you want, or if you want it up in front of you too.
Okay.
And then I printed off just what I already had on there,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought this might be helpful.
Very.
What you already set as the descriptors. So,
Okay.
and you've already
So-
seen this.
Yes.
Just from the spider and the fly for the baseline.
Okay, perfect.
And then, so before we look at them, I just want to make sure. So, specific goal, just to make sure when we're looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Compose a clear, concise summary with vivid details, right?
Yes.
And that's what I had got from your number 4. But also kind of, even though we didn't set the goal for this,
Mm-hmm.
are you kind of feeling like you were able to report on this, like report card, like be able to revise written summaries?
I did use this, and I looked back at all of their Luther communication,
Yes.
all on their Google Doc, to see how their paragraphs changed over time.
Okay, good.
So, yep.
And that wasn't like, we didn't have that as the goal,
Mhm.
but I felt like it was such a natural piece that
Mhm.
came into it, so I kind of obviously put that down as one we thought we would be doing.
And I know the rest of the 5th grade classes didn't do that, but I thought that it
Right.
only made sense that our class did, since we really
Yep.
focused in on that.
And then I talked to either Becky or Lois, and they had mentioned that it made sense that
Mhm.
you had all that data to be able to
Mhm.
support it.
And then I also used this work to give them a score for theme,
Yes.
because they could tell the theme of a drama, story, or poem.
Yep,
So I used
yes.
that for this.
So it hit the literature standard, it hit your head of writing standard. Well, good, so these are things that we weren't really planning on.
Right, so incidentally, it worked out really great.
Wonderful.
So.
Okay, good. And
Swell.
so I didn't know, so either plans for this week, like
Yes.
you're saying with Barb,
Mhm.
and what's expected, or looking
Or-
at this, so where would you like to start the conversation?
Could we start with what is the expectation
Mhm.
for this week?
Yep.
I did not get Barb emailed.
Okay.
And I can do that right now if you wish. I could also I could jump into my drive and see if all of my students do have the Luther story.
Sure. you can
Should
look
we
at
do
it.
that?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm just gonna write down wherever.
Yes, and I
Okay.
can sure email her that way. Okay.
Oh, let's say they're all done though. Let's say, yes, they have a story in there.
So tomorrow, I will have kids go on and edit their Luther partners' writing in blue and offer suggestions. Do you think I do that individually, or do you think I do that as a team?
Because they've been working in teams before that.
Previously they were.
What is your purpose?
My purpose is truly to make them be a more observant reader and writer, and to work on editing. So my feeling is that I should have them do it independently.
I mean, it makes sense if if you want to see if they're recognizing it, and if you want to add that collaborative piece afterwards, is after they've all put it in, then maybe they could do another color if you wanted to meet in a group.
If their team of 2 or 3
Yeah.
notices something else, that's a great idea.
Then you could do it in a different color just for the sake of, that could be the pink, because you're not really gonna have a pink, right?
Correct.
So that could be the pink, so that could be the second person, maybe like the way you have it set up before, where the Luther student does blue, and then they are more direct with the pink. You're the
That I
second.
like.
If you want, if you want that part of it.
I think that's great. So let me write that down for myself.
Blue independently, so they do it in blue independently.
Yes, please. I think it can be a collaborative discussion with corrections.
Here's an idea. Would there be any value in not having them work with the same people they normally do?
I
they'd be
do.
looking at this, well, and that's a question, so either they could be looking at the same story with other people's input, or could they look at a fresh new story and give input on that one?
I think that's probably a better idea, because they'd be exposed to more writing styles, more things to notice.
Yeah, I'm wondering too.
That may be more beneficial.
Because I'm trying to think, if I looked at Jenny's or whoever,
Mm-hmm.
and I was with you who also was looking at Jenny's, then would I just simply, I don't know, there's benefit to both, because if I only find like a spelling mistake or so on this one, but then we chat together on that same story,
Mhm.
and I realize all the mistakes I didn't do, at least it's the same story I'm looking at, But then again, if I look at a new story, I have a
Mhm.
fresh set of eyes where I'm not looking at the same story again and looking for the same mistakes.
I think maybe the fresh eyes would be good.
Okay,
Okay, so I think it'll be accessible to everybody.
good. Are the kids excited about this, or they haven't really understood what's going to happen yet because it hasn't come yet?
They're pumped so far.
Okay.
They have not been on their Google Docs to look yet.
So they're antsy. Well, good. I'm glad that they're giving them the practice that obviously you're saying is needed.
Okay, this is an off-the-wall comment, but last week the kids did Martin's big words,
Mhm.
and every time they wrote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., they had some difficulty with, do you put a comma before the word junior?
Oh, okay.
And, you know, that was something I noticed, and also a lot of them tried to put in direct quotations last week. And they often had the exact words with quotation marks, and then they'd put the period out here.
So what were they quoting?
So they were like, Martin walked with them, he talked with them,
Oh,
he
okay,
sang
from
with
the
them,
book.
he
Yes,
prayed
okay,
with them.
okay.
But they truly should put the punctuation mark inside, no
Mhm.
matter.
No matter what the use of the quotation marks?
Exactly, right? So, isn't that correct?
Right?
Yes, that's how I understood it, because I'm
We
like
have to
going,
make sure we review
I'm
it.
like, have I been doing it wrong all these years?
No,
Or
so the Luther students were making those mistakes, or the fifth graders were?
the fifth graders were, but the Luther students did not
Catch that.
catch that.
So that might be something that,
We could talk about the proper use of punctuation
Okay.
when quotation marks are included.
of what need to address.
And that was when I went on the Google Docs from last week. I said to many kids, you know, your paragraph was spot on. I just want to teach you something about using quotation marks in your own written work.
Okay.
Please remind me, that kind of thing.
Well, and thinking of that, you know, you're talking about, in which we won't jump there 100%, but like, conversation last week we had was, is there gonna be a possible change, you know, like in direction for the.
In our focus?
And one of them, I was looking at the different standards. I don't know if you're
Mhm.
gonna stick with literature, if you're going informational, but one is quote accurately from what a text explaining what it says explicitly.
And I saw that and I thought that might be a perfect tie-in to
Mhm.
the next focus.
Yep. So I had that down as one of the, you know, thinking that might be a direction, but I wasn't sure even if it chatted as a team.
We have
if you know
not,
what direction you're.
we have not talked grade level wise yet.
But you're still gonna focus on literature, right? You're not jumping to informational text.
Not that I'm aware of.
Like you're gonna go into the book club of.
Freak the Mighty.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's a perfect transition because and then you're finding it in there writing naturally.
Correct.
And it's gonna hit the standard.
So-
You're just doing it all, Julie.
No, I have good guidance, that's why. I think we're on the right path for Luther this week, and hopefully I can give it some more thought for next week, talk with my team, get back with you, and make, you know, definite decisions.
So you don't know if you're gonna go back to using the mentor text, you're saying? Like next week, like back to the.
Like going back to summarizing. Or,
Right.
You know, I would think it'd be still very natural to use the mentor sentence text, and then maybe just put in the element of quoting accurately from the text
Right,
and punctuating that correctly. Maybe that could be our next focus.
absolutely.
That way it would be adding more, but it wouldn't be like starting over and
Right, and you're keeping the routine.
consistent.
Right, so that you're not having to learn a whole new management of any part of it. So the Luther part they would know what they're doing, the fifth graders would know what they're doing, but it's just a
Adding one more layer
skill. Yep,
to that. I like that because
so I'm gonna put that down.
I
as
think
that's
the
our next
routine, we know how the kids do with routine. You know, we're really cruising with it now.
focus. Oh, then you want to
Should we
just
look-
kind of look at a few of these?
That sounds great.
So these are, so just for the sake of knowing what's going on. So Spider and the Fly, we did the baseline, now we did a Bike Like Mike's, no,
Like
Sergio's.
Sergio's.
I have that, okay, Sergio's.
Okay.
And you've done some of these, you've already looked through them, somewhat
Yes.
on your own.
Just a quick read through to see what parts were missing. I did meet with a few kids today to talk to them about what was missing in their summaries
Mhm.
and how they could make their paragraphs better.
Okay.
And so then I did have a little mini writing conference with them. And some kids are already started on their rewrite.
Okay,
Some students, it was as simple as changing the spelling on just a couple of words, maybe indenting a paragraph.
Okay.
So some kids had really quick fixes. Some students wanted to totally redo theirs. And so,
So when you had the conferences, you had a focus for writing as the conference, not necessarily as the summary piece.
actually both.
Okay.
And if they were missing something, you know, if they were missing the lesson, or they hadn't given a good enough detail,
Mhm.
or had details confused, I did talk that through with them.
Okay.
Tell me about this part. What really happened? Did the boy steal the money, or did he find it?
Okay.
Did he get told to return the money, or did his conscience tell him? You know,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Well, okay, so we looked through this the first time, and we just kind of put them in 4, 3, 2, 1, or even 3 pluses or 2 pluses.
Mhm.
And then you went back and were much more descriptive here.
Yes.
So then that's what this reflects. So we probably had a lot more 3s in our first run through than what is on here. So a majority of the kids were in the 2. So I think because Blair was missing the moral,
Mhm.
and that was an expectation in that 3. So hers was a 2
Mhm.
because it was missing an actual piece.
One or more parts was missing. Okay.
So yeah, so she would have been, even though we had 3 there, but by the new criteria, it would have been a 2, so she's not quite there.
Okay.
So then when you looked at this new one,
I'm just rereading my
Yep.
standards again. When I looked at it, I thought she had all the parts with an excellent lesson at the end.
so then this would be now, in your mind, I'm gonna grab a pencil or.
Please help yourself on my desk if you'd like.
Okay. Oh, here's my pen.
Okay. And she even uses the words, you know, most of the words like the then and wanted
Okay, so she's using the keywords.
many of the times, and then at the end it's explicitly stated.
And descriptive details have been used, not just literal factual ones.
Correct.
Been verbs with examples of one. So she's not a 4.
Yes, she would be at a 4.
Well, look at that. I can even mark it here too. Woohoo! That's like tally mark that too. And we don't have to go through every single one like this, but we could at least maybe find one that we thought was. Okay, so here's a student who, remember when we first started this, you were kind of challenged by separating the summary reading piece with the writing.
With the mechanics of writing.
So when we did that, so Blair's kind of was just missing the moral, and otherwise it was a pretty nicely written piece.
Absolutely.
But then we have another student who seemed, it was more like sentences, very separate.
Right.
But he was still in the same category of a 2 because he had
He had
the,
included most of the parts.
right.
Mhm.
The literal retelling included one or more parts are missing.
Right.
So,
So that same student, here's his new piece, and now you can see he is actually
very
writing in a
different
paragraph.
too, yep.
Okay, so we've got, they are the main characters. They wanted, but, so. We've got
Then,
and the
finally,
finally.
yep.
You know, and
Is there more on the back or no?
I don't believe
Okay.
so. So I circled that he did not explicitly state the lesson or the moral.
Yep. And then, when you're looking at it, because I went through it really quickly. So 3, the above are included, but not as many details are included as the 4. So he's improved in obviously
Oh,
some of the areas, but maybe he's missing one piece.
yes.
What about his details? Are they using vivid verbs or descriptive details? Did he go beyond?
So he doesn't just say he picked it up, he grabbed it and he kept it.
It's too bad he just didn't, like, if you had asked him, I bet he'd be able to say, oh yeah, this is it. He'd probably be able to infer it, but he just didn't put it down by himself.
Exactly, you know, and that's what I'm thinking too. As I reread everyone's, they are telling that, you know, it wasn't right, you know that they're getting to it, but it's just not specifically stated at the end.
Right.
So I would give him a 3 now, probably versus a 2.
Okay, so the above are included.
But,
Okay, I'm gonna bring it back to this one. A
Okay.
moral is specifically stated at the end.
right, and we know that that is missing. The above
Right.
are included, but not as many details. So I suppose right now I still have to give him the 2 because he has one more part.
That's what I was gonna say, just based on our criteria.
On our criteria, yes.
Can we just change our criteria?
I know, dramatic improvement.
It
It's
is
like,
though, you're right. I mean, and just
you know,
looking at the 2 pieces.
There's so much progress, and so, so I
So-
will have him add one more sentence, fix up a couple of the mechanical things.
Yeah.
And he'll have a 4.
Yeah, really.
Exactly, so, yes.
So that just shows though that maybe it's just that those little tweaks, and so those are the conversations. And I know you had some kind of small group chats too, I think. Didn't you, like after, when you were looking at their individual pieces online, have you had conversations too with them? I can't remember. I know you write back to them all.
Yes, I have.
So maybe after just this, it would be a situation where we could group them and see, well, this is where, they still fall here and this is what they're missing. 'Cause this is what I wrote down in the 2s, missing the moral and details to understand the summary if this was the only time someone has heard the story. Obviously, this is a much improved piece compared to here because I'd actually be able to tell what the story's about here, where here.
It's so choppy
Yes,
and
yes.
disjointed.
So maybe there's like before you move on to the next standard or next focus, maybe
Mhm.
there's another chance to do one more of these.
Absolutely.
And then maybe, how would you address that with the class then? How would you address, before we just say we're gonna do another assessment, another, check on this,
Right.
how would you wanna make sure that we address these so that this kid who is so close to a 4,
I think I just need to do that in the individual conference.
okay,
I think that I would get a lot further with students in one-on-one than I would in the large group.
right, if
So
you
I
just
think-
kinda said, oh, we're missing this as a large group, you're not gonna get it as,
Excuse me.
as clear.
So I think just bringing them back to this and saying, remember the parts that you needed to include or revise to make
Yep.
your writing the best it could be. I think that's all it will really take.
I'll just put that down. And that's up to you, obviously, if you're gonna do another assessment to see, because you're obviously having these conversations with them to fix.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be nice to see one more time before you move on to the next.
Can they really do it?
Right.
Can they do it every time?
Yes, yes.
So not just every other time or what have you.
All right, you wanna do one more?
Sure.
Okay. Is there anybody, you wanna go like to one that's, that was kind of in the lower range? We had 3 that were in the 1 category, like the
Okay.
not proficient.
Okay, is that one of the ones right there?
I'm guessing so. I think I have 3 there. Yes, I have
That's-
Freddie, Trace, and Brooklyn.
Freddie, with his online writing, has improved dramatically. There's Trace's too. He's one that's really has really benefited from doing the collaboration with Luther and having to go back and revisit his writing.
So, and that was something we talked about another time too. Wondering if if you do another one of these, is a written version versus a typed version.
Mm-hmm.
Do we keep it consistent because they've had, that's been their expectation to do it by handwriting, or, in written form?
Mhm.
Or do we take that piece out and really make sure that, if we're having them practice with our Luther student weekly in
Mhm.
that format, should we be assessing them in that same exact format?
That's a good thing to question. I know one of my students that struggles with writing as far as intelligence is top notch. It's not that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the ideas are not the problem.
We're talking about the student?
We are not.
Okay, okay,
But he has an IEP and he has some adaptations,
okay,
in the special education room.
okay.
And so today I handed him his, and we looked at it, and I wrote some things that needed to be corrected with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, which would make you feel more comfortable? He said, I'd love to type it. And I said, okay, jump on Seesaw. Let's do that. He was done in a matter of minutes.
Okay, so that, obviously we need to consider that
Mhm.
when we're looking at the next one or any future
Yes.
checkpoints, because that's
Yes.
only fair to be taking the assessment information from the same format or same
Mhm.
style that we're having them do it naturally.
And I have to say selfishly, I am pushing the kids to do their neatest writing also when they do their rewrite, just because I want to see what they really can give me
Sure.
when they slow down. So
Sure.
I did put that out there as another thing to work on.
Okay,
Okay, so this is Trace's.
all right.
And he was the one that before did not
You-
follow directions at all. We couldn't even find his answers hardly.
Oh, it was almost like the first one we looked at. No, not that one. Whoever's we looked at.
Oh, yes, was it this one?
The somebody wanted, but
Correct.
it was almost that, okay. So yes, his was, oh yeah, his was writing it on the practice summary from the modeling that you guys had done. Okay,
Right,
that's right, okay.
right. So this is what he gave.
Well, even just looking at it, that's a huge improvement.
That's right, we have a lovely illustration.
Yes.
It wasn't quite needed on the side, but oh well.
You know, but that's vivid. It's a vivid, you know, what do you have, vivid verbs. Well, hey, I'm not quite sure if it's verb, but.
What he drew, I'm not really sure. That's a great question. Is it the hand picking up the money?
Maybe, we're gonna give him that.
Okay, we'll go for it. That was my stomach. Whoa.
That's hilarious. Mine usually do that like, mine does that like an administration meeting usually.
Oh,
That's when
funny.
I'm doing that.
I like that
When
detail.
prevented, look at-
That's a good detail.
Yes.
That was my only bone to pick. I mean, glaring that he didn't really steal it. He found it, you know, and I suppose you could consider
Oh, I suppose,
it
yes,
stealing.
depending on what your values are, taking something that doesn't belong to you, even picking it up, he
Mhm.
might be considering it. I'd rather have my kids in general.
No, think of it as stealing,
Yes.
I know.
I mean, in
I
general,
know.
yeah. Most kids probably wouldn't, so that says a lot about him as a kid, actually.
It does, and.
Okay, so that's a huge improvement.
Isn't that amazing?
Is there, okay, so,
So he's got the main characters.
you got the okay, yeah, somebody
They wanted a bite,
wanted,
but
but,
he has no money. So he stole somebody's money, then he gave it back because he realized it was wrong of him to do that. The moral of the story.
and in he didn't use the word finally, but he obviously,
I like how he didn't say the lesson of the story.
Oh,
He actually
right.
used the moral of the story.
all
As to
right.
What is right, not
Okay, so
what's
he has
wrong.
all that. Do you feel like he did use some descriptive details?
I like the prevented.
He realized he used moral versus the lesson. This is
Mhm.
what I mean. There are a few.
I would say I would probably put him in the 4.
Look at that!
Did he go from a 1?
Yes, he went
to
from
a 4?
yes, he went from not even being able to distinguish what you were asking of the first summary, and you had to circle and identify the parts within his other
Mhm.
summary, to a well-organized, clear, your goal.
Ah.
Compose a clear, concise summary with vivid details.
Okay. Oh, happy dance.
That's right. That's a high five.
There you go, Cal. All right.
That's awesome. Well, good. So, I mean,
All
just
right.
having these conversations, how are you feeling about, like, is this a waste of your time? I mean, having this detailed a conversation, or, I'm just wondering.
I don't think so. I think it really makes me look deeply, and you know, I look at the improvements that they've made over time, but when I put it up to the rubric and things that I came up with originally, then I have to rethink and I have to reflect more deeply about what I need to go back and reteach, or what I need to
Or
focus
just,
in on.
right, like in your individual conversations with them, being able to, focus in on that. You know, if you just had this piece to it, then it would be,
Mhm.
you know, giving a whole complete picture.
And for him, I have to show him that original piece of, oh my gosh, you scared me like crazy
Oh,
when
yes.
you did that, and now look at the progress in your work.
Well, I'm guessing a Luther partner too, because we should
Oh.
probably make copies of these and let them see
The progression.
change. I mean, that will help
Mhm.
them know that their part is obviously
That they are
benefiting.
they are making a difference.
Yes.